Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided.
This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy and other Eagan community television programming is supported by Thomson-Reuters, makers of Westlawn Next and based in Eagan. Through Westlawn Next and other innovative online services, Thomson-Reuters is the world's leading source of intelligent information for businesses and professionals. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And by U.S. Federal Credit Union, the member-owned financial institution offering service, value, and experience you can trust to the greater Twin Cities community.
A lot of these shows have got indexed on YouTube.
Welcome. We're back with Access to Democracy. We're back with Rick King, who has been one of our most frequent guests, and in a variety of capacities, and on a variety of subjects.
Great to be back with you, Alan.
It's always a pleasure, Rick. Rick has done so much for Eagan Television and for this show in particular that we are in his debt. Notwithstanding that, he is still an executive in the corporate world, and they wear black hats a lot of the time, but he wears a white hat.
Black hats, wow. Okay. Happy Friday to you too, Alan.
Yes. It is getting close to Halloween.
That's true, actually.
Yeah.
What are you going to be for Halloween?
I am going to be myself, the Grinch.
I don't believe that about you, but
Yes.
Grinch
Absolutely.
is really a Christmas thing. But that sounds like, I think I'll be the ghost of Christmas of the future.
Oh, that would be interesting.
So maybe we'll even talk about that someday.
Halloween used to be fun because Toby, who is the subject of my new book, which is not even out yet, but this is just a sample copy, Toby used to go out trick-or-treating with the neighborhood kids and do very well on Halloween. And there's even a cartoon in there and a segment about that, because they used to come around, they said that they always did better if Toby was with them in costume.
I could see why. Was he dressed as a kid, Toby? Was that his
He
Halloween
had various costumes. Sometimes he went in a twins uniform. And
oh, I do love that picture. It's a great book. I think a lot of the dog lovers are going to really like that book.
Well, I'm hopeful, because it's been a project of love, but it's an expensive project of love, so we'd like to see getting our money back.
Absolutely. The goal of every author, right?
Now, we're up in the air about a lot of things, but you are a member of the MAC, the Metropolitan Airport Commission, and we have a lot of things going on with them.
Well, we do, yeah.
So let's talk about some of it. I see articles about expansion, and articles about making Delta Airlines more comfortable in one terminal. I wonder why, but be that as it may. So
well, we could
tell us what's going on.
Sure. What actually hit the press with public meetings and a public hearing just this week on Monday night was the fact that a 10-year plan has been released for the Metropolitan Airports Commission, and it's a plan. It's called an EAW, Environmental Assessment, and Environmental Assessment Worksheet, one for federal, one for state. And in order to progress a public project, you have to do environmental work. You have to say what the impact is on the air, the water, historic regions, noise, traffic,
in people's homes.
all of those things. And what you have to do as you're preparing each of the projects is detail what is the impact in each of those areas. That's part of the environmental assessment and the environmental assessment worksheet that you submit both to the FAA, who looks at the environmental assessment, and then the EAW is handled by the Airport Commission as the state representative for that. So the Airport Commission released those assessments for public comment, and we got a lot of comments through several public meetings and then the hearing on Monday.
And several bricks through the windows.
You know,
by
People-
homeowners and things like that
There
who
were-
are very incensed.
Yeah, there are, there's a lot of homeowners that have concerns, and many of them came and spoke. And, frankly, I attended the hearing as one of the hearing officers, and it's really helpful to hear the residents come in and talk about what the impact is to them and what their questions are, because it always starts out with information so they can know more about it, but then they can ask their questions, and they can also tell us what they think the impact is, which is part of understanding what's going on. But the most important thing about this, underneath the environmental work, is a series of projects. I'll just make a number up. Maybe there's 25 projects in there over the next 10 years. None of those projects are approved even when you get past the environmental work. You have to have a need. The Airport Commission approves each project as they go. But in order to be ready to pull the trigger and start a project and approve it, you need to get the environmental work done. So this segment of the work was purely to begin the process of looking at the environmental work.
Now, I have to add here, I don't know how you have the time to do as many things as you do. And I even found out this week that you're involved in more things. Number one, because of your duties with Thomson-Reuters as Chief Operating Officer Technology, you're all over the world. And if I call to speak to you, you can be in Switzerland, you can be in Argentina, you can be in Germany, etc. Now, in addition to that, you chaired the High-Speed Broadband Commission. And then I see the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's Telecommunications and E-Commerce Committee on Minnesota's Science and Technology Authority Advisory Commission, trustee for Minnesota Public Radio, vice chair of Board of Trustees for the Science Museum of Minnesota, serving on the Carlson Global Institute Advisory Board at the Carlson School of Management at the University of Minnesota. You're a person who has lived here about 6 or 7 years. You are every place in the state.
Well, a lot of these things, it's interesting. There's a lot of things to do. I have, first and foremost, family obligations. My kids are grown. They're out of the house. I have a wife, and we have a couple of dogs as well. So that's something that fits in. I've got a very busy work job, and I love the extra activities as well. And the old saying about when you want something done, give it to somebody who's busy seems to hold true here.
It really is true, I can say that. If your dogs would like to write an endorsement for the book, by the way, you could speak to them about it.
I have to talk to their agent, but I'd be more than happy to. They do endorsements regularly.
Do they?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it doesn't cost more than a milk bone or two.
Well, that's a good deal.
Absolutely.
Now, as I'm researching for talking to you today, I see that flights have gone down 18%. Passenger service has gone down 12% over the last few years. And we're talking about building 30 more spots for planes to land. What's the correlation here?
Okay, so I'll go back to what I said, which is the most common thing I end up saying about this, is that what we have to do as a prudent group of planners is figure out what we might need if the economy turns, what we might need if more growth scenarios happen. Figure out what does it take to prepare for those kinds of projects.
And it looks like the economy is turning.
And then lay them out. So what we want to do is get the environmental approvals. And then the projects just sit until these type of statistics that you mentioned change. The number of operations has definitely declined more than the number of passengers. What we're seeing are fewer planes, but now they're starting to get bigger again, and the planes are fuller. So you end up having pretty good passenger throughput and fewer actual operations.
Except for Delta, which has done everything but put stand-up straps that you have on the subway in their planes, because the space has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. In fact, they're cutting down the size of planes that we have here. And somebody by the name of Rick King is quoted as saying, If we get the lower end of the planes, it feels like you're a little bit more in the minor leagues. And this Mr. King is a frequent flyer, said Airbuses are infinitely more comfortable than the planes that that Delta is giving us now, and that is true from my own experience.
Absolutely.
As a
the phenomenon, I totally back that up. The thing that I'm talking about now is that a lot of the commuter jets, which over the last few years we got more smaller, the commuter-sized regional jets, they are starting, more of them have moved out, and we're seeing the lower end of the planes that I'm talking about in that article, which would be MD-88s, MD-90s, which are still less comfortable to me than the Airbus 300 series.
Some of them are older than my children.
Well, they are old, they're reliable, they're safe, they're good. There's all that part, and they refurb them a little bit, but they definitely, you feel because they're full and because of the space, you actually feel like it's a lot fuller and a lot tighter than you would hope. And that was my concern in that piece. But generally speaking, Delta's the dominant carrier at the hub here in MSP, and I think they're after
to the extent of like 85% of the business.
Yep, they're after doing a really good job. The Airport Commission needs to work with them, but we've worked to bring in almost every other U.S.-based carrier that there is around. We've got flights, and when people get here, like Southwest, JetBlue, some of the other companies that have come in here, flying companies, they end up expanding because it's a very good, well-run airport from a cost point of view. They can rely on the airport to be run in an efficient manner. Delta says that too, so it's something that everybody likes.
Delta is one of the most expensive of the airlines, and they charge every place they can. Maybe I am too old for for my memory to go back to non-jet planes, but when we got meals,
right?
Today you pay for everything but maybe peanuts. You could take any number of bags on. Now with Delta, if you're a frequent flyer, as I am, I have hundreds of thousands of miles with Delta, you get one bag free. The rest cost you, I don't know, $25 or $50
right.
a piece. It has gotten so expensive, and they have gotten so expensive, and I don't find that Delta is a passenger-friendly airline. It used to be that Northwest was a passenger-friendly airline. Sun Country is a passenger-friendly airline, and some of the others. And is there anything that the MAC can do about that? Have you any control over that?
Well, first, let me give you my perspective. Delta is not the only carrier that charges for bags and all the food that goes out. So as an industry, I'm going to say I don't like that practice either. I think it's nickel and diming, and it's all about getting what looks like visibly the lower fare. Secondly, when you're a hub carrier, when you're at a hub, you're the dominant carrier at a hub. The pricing is always going to be higher than if you're not. That's just a fact. And it's not just Delta, again, it's an airline industry thing, and the pricing is very, very complicated. As to, I guess I should say one more thing. I've flown on Delta probably, because I lived in Atlanta for a while, I lived in Dallas for a while, flown Delta quite a bit, well over 2 million miles, in a lifetime, and I found generally they do a really good job. Now, there are exceptions to that, like anything, so I'm going to differ a little bit with your opinion, but I think when they say a rising tide lifts all boats, I think the tide's going down in the whole airline industry, unfortunately, and the ones that stick out these days are very few and far between, where they really kind of fly like, it's more calm to be on a flight. It's not what people describe as calm today. Get to the airport very early, go through this frisking with the TSA and security that people don't like, take off almost all the clothes that you had to put on, go through security, and then you're sitting at the gate where there's not enough seats for seemingly a long time as you wait. That's not a passenger-friendly thing. What the Airport Commission tries to do is make sure that there's enough places to sit, enough places to eat, enough places to shop, to do things that people
I think they've
could
done a
plan on
great
doing.
job with the terminal. I think our terminal is as attractive and as comfortable as any that I've been in this country or abroad. But when it comes to the airlines themselves, obviously the first thing you want is safety. Transcends everything else.
Absolutely.
But then I have a note here that says, is everything about money? Is everything about the bottom line? And that's what troubles me.
Right.
I think that they have bypassed a lot of small incidentals that they could to make themselves friendlier to the people who are flying, looking strictly at the bottom line, and that disturbs me.
Yeah, and I think you've got a point there. I mean, I think in our business and other people's in their business every day, you're always making a trade-off of this investment for that amount of customer satisfaction versus not. And I think from time to time, people go too far, and don't do enough for the customer, and then it usually pendulum swings back.
And when you've got a lock on the market, as they do here with 85%, I mean, Delta was going to keep its training facility here. That's gone. They were going to keep their facilities to do repairs on the planes here. That's gone. They had one in Duluth. That's gone. There are a lot of promises that they made. Their headquarters sits empty over here. It's up for sale, where they had hundreds of people employed. That's gone. And to me, that's not Minnesota friendly. That's not passenger friendly. That's not friendly to anything but Delta's bottom line, and
right.
I find that really troublesome.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think what they would probably counter is that they had some obligations when they had a loan with the MAC. They paid off the loan. They made a commitment to have more than 10,000 employees in the state of Minnesota. They still have more than 10,000 employees in the state of Minnesota. They would acknowledge all those places that they've moved or closed or whatever they've done. I think they would say they've met their commitment. But right now, the Airport Commission...
Disruption of families when they do that.
Sure. The Airport Commission doesn't have anything that they can actually do about that, or anything that you do about the pricing for the end customer. What we try to do is keep the costs down for the airline. They get charged for landing fees, they get charged for gate fees, they get a part of concessions, they get different things. And what we want to do is make operating at Minneapolis as cost effective as possible.
But as public relations, can you hold their feet to the fire a little bit? Can you have hearings about these things? Can you listen to the complaints of people, which Delta doesn't do? In my way of thinking, when we had regulations, pretty tight regulations on the airline industry, we had a lot more competition, and it was a better industry than it is today, where we have 5 or 6 major carriers, and the lack of competition has really brought us down to what we were just talking about.
Yeah, there are things that we can do as an Airport Commission, and there are things that we can't. And as you said, years ago, deregulation changed, how the government was involved in those things. But what we can do, we do listen to customers. We do listen to customer service issues. We do from time to time talk to the airlines about things that relate to them.
Do they listen to you, though?
Yeah, they do. I mean, they have things that they need to do, and I've found them to be extremely cooperative. I do know that, and we're talking about Delta, but they have a very good group of people nationwide that respond to customer issues on Twitter. They're very quick with that. So one of the ways that they've enhanced their ability to try to serve customers is by that. We have some stuff we can do, and whatever we can do, we will. What we're trying to do at the Airport Commission is make it the place where all the airlines want to fly from, because there's a lot of good passengers that want to go places. Bringing in more competition is going to help some of the issues that you've talked about, keep the costs as low as we can and operate it. We've got rated #1 by Travel Magazine, which is fantastic. If you haven't been, a lot of people haven't been out there lately. There's huge new improvements in the way concessions are run in Concourse G.
Well, as I said, the terminals
and
are
it's really,
great. They really are.
It's really nice. And now, just as of Monday, we have free Wi-Fi available for the first time. So that's a new innovation there. And I want to note, you have to watch a 30-second video commercial to get 30 minutes of free Wi-Fi, and then you can keep that process repeated. But it's a model that's really good because it doesn't really cost the consumer anything. If you don't want to see the ad, you can buy a higher level service and pay for it. But I think most people have turned out they like the free idea.
And how long do they get for that free idea?
Well, they can have as many 30-minute sessions for 30 seconds of
If
commercial.
they watch the ad
just
every
keep watching
time.
it. Yep, that's
You mean
all.
3 minutes of Wi-Fi and then you got to watch the
30
ad
minutes.
again? Oh, 30
30
minutes.
minutes.
Oh, okay.
30-second video, 30 minutes of Wi-Fi.
Can't fight
It's
with
not
that.
really a bad deal.
Can't fight with that. Although I think that Terminal 2, I can't get used to Terminal 2. The Humphrey Terminal has not quite caught up to where the Lindbergh Terminal is, but it's the Humphrey Terminal that they're talking about expanding with 30 more gates.
Yeah, in that long-term plan, if these carriers like Southwest and Sun Country and JetBlue who are in that terminal expand, then we're going to want to expand in that terminal, and part of that plan with the environmental work is to move the non-SkyTeam carriers, that is not the Delta flights and others, from Terminal 1 into Terminal 2 and add some gates in Terminal 2. Now that will only happen if there's demand for it. That expansion calls for things like those additional gates. It calls for roadway work on Highway 5, Trunk Route 5 and the inbound roadways. Calls for more parking. Parking is full in Terminal 1 almost every Tuesday and Wednesday. And there's online ways you can get, you can look at that before you go to the airport.
About 18,000 more spaces needed if they add those additional gates.
That's right, that's right. And this would all, in my way of thinking, we'll get the environmental work done, but then we have to sit and wait and see if the economy recovers, if more airlines add more flights there, we get more passengers, and then we can start actually funding those improvements. So nothing on, I wanted to mention that there will not be another runway built.
That was a question
That's not
somebody
part
asked
of
me
that.
when they knew you were coming in today. Are we going to have another runway?
Nope, there is not going to be there's not another runway in that plan. I don't think, and so there's no runway in that plan at all. It's road work, it's parking, it's gates, that's what it is, and it's relocation of some rental car facilities. We have to build up the rental car facility for Terminal 2. They don't even have one today.
Right.
So, there's things like that to equalize the terminals. Well, not quite, because Terminal 2 will never be quite as big. But no runway, there's no runway addition. In fact, I don't believe that there's any room to put another runway in that airport footprint. I think our runway capacity, except for maybe 3 banks of time during the day, is sufficient. It's the capacity to get to the gates, to move the passengers, the baggage system, the parking, the roadway in that this expansion is pretty much after.
Now there was also a time when we could get on a flight here, a KLM flight, and go straight to Amsterdam. That's pretty much disappeared with Delta. Delta partners with all these people now, but you have to fly to another location.
No, well, actually, KLM doesn't fly from here to Amsterdam, but there's 3 flights a day to Amsterdam on Delta that connect to the KLM flights in Europe. In fact, when you always tell me when I'm going to Zurich, I fly out to Amsterdam and I connect to KLM to Zurich. And I did that recently to go to come back from the UK. So there's
Paris,
there's
London?
a Paris flight, there's a London flight, there's a flight to Tokyo. A lot of people don't consider
These are direct flights we're talking about?
Those are direct flights. Those are direct flights. We'd like to see, and there's some to Canada, we'd like to see more direct international flights. We'd like to see more carriers as well. And that's one thing the Airport Commission does work on, is recruiting other airlines to come. And we've been pretty successful recruiting other domestic airlines to come and get started. And Southwest came and started here flying to Denver, and now I think they're on their 4th different city destination from here and doing quite well. we would like to see more international flights, and we are also expanding the customs area in Terminal 2, so that beyond the ones that fly some Mexico flights on country, that we can accommodate carriers there too.
Well, we've talked a lot about what's going on with the Metropolitan Airport Commission, and I know more than I did when we sat down, so I hope that the viewers do also.
Well, if there's any people that want more information about this, MAC has a really good website, and they're certainly welcome. We meet, the full commission meets once a month on Monday afternoon. The committees meet once a month on Monday afternoon as well, every other, the first Monday of the month and the third Monday of the month. We hear from a lot of residents. People can come to the open podium part right at the beginning, say something they want to say, get their feeling out there. They can send a letter, they can email me, and I'll put things there if there's some questions, or if they have specific concerns. Viewers are welcome to follow up.
Thank you for that. And what's doing with Thomson-Reuters these days?
Well, it's a great business. Many tentacles out there. There's always growth going on in all kinds of parts of the world. We follow
Westlaw in how many countries now?
Westlaw is, I think the number would be, users are in well over 80 countries. I think we've got Westlaw products for those countries in about 20 of the countries specifically, but it's very global, doing very well. The businesses often follow the models of what's going on in the industry. Law hit a little trough. They're starting to pick up. I saw that in the employment figures that were released yesterday or today, the legal professions picked up about 1% or so, and that's always good news for us.
Which is better than the dearth of progress that they've had for a number of years.
Exactly. There's been a lot of consolidations and job loss in the legal industry. The financial service industry, the banking and deal-making industries have been struggling for quite a number of years, and
and of course your publications serve them.
They do.
And serve medical and schools and things like that.
That's right. So the financial service aspect follows kind of the way the employment goes there. The thing that's really going extremely well these days, tax and accounting is doing really well. Tax laws just are very complex globally, and more people have to rely on.
That's what Governor Romney tells me, and got to check out all those Cayman Island accounts.
Tax laws are this is one of the biggest things that multinationals, global companies spend time on. And then the other thing that every time there's regulations. The other thing is
that we just ran out of time.
Oh, did we?
Unbelievable. Rick King, thanks so much.
All right, Al, thanks.